Hello, it's Book Quote Wednesday and the word is simple. Today I am reading from my space opera, The Xenocide Mission. My human hero Joel and his alien companion Boon Round have been captured by another set of aliens, the XCs. They think the XCs are ruthless, mindless killers, but as you'll see when we get to a scene from the XC point of view, it's not quite that simple. But we start with Joel and Boon Round in captivity. 4 feet, Joel thought sourly. What a bloody silly number. Of course, this wasn't an entirely worthy idea, and part of him was grateful that he still had this capacity for rational thought. But honestly, Boon Round could be so... Joel supposed he was glad to see Boon Round was rallying. The Rusty was spending less and less time in its hammock, which unfortunately meant more and more time moving around the commune place and complaining about, well, everything. Which was what you'd expect from having 2 completely different species working side by side, Joel thought privately. You couldn't really have the Commonwealth without the first breed, the roving being their home planet and all that, but he sometimes thought there might be a case for having all the first breed stay at home and letting the humans do the spacefaring. Let both sides play to their strengths. Joel passed his time doing exercises and thinking, which were really the only 2 options open to him, and had the advantage that they could be done simultaneously. Escape was the main thing to think about, though exactly how was another matter. He kept hoping the big friendly alien would return and let him out again. If he could somehow win her trust enough to get near a weapons locker or something. "I wish you'd stop that bouncing to and fro," said Boon Round. Joel had devised the exercise of kicking gently off the floor of the commune place, doing a somersault in mid-air, and landing on the ceiling feet first, to repeat the process indefinitely. It's deeply distracting. Joel stopped exercising and sulked in one corner. For the 1000th time he triggered the image on his ident bracelet and gazed into those blue eyes. So freaking typical. It had been as if every moment, every experience, every lesson of his life had been in preparation for meeting her. And before he had time to work out if he really was reading the signals correctly, he had been sent to Sky Spy. "I wish you'd come up with some helpful suggestions," he muttered. "Why bother? These creatures murdered my siblings without pity, and they greatly outnumber us. Our only hope is to die with glory, taking as many as we can with us." Boon Round sounded as if it approved of the idea. Perhaps it did. A Rusty in its situation would have nothing left to live for. Joel had a great deal to live for, and he wore the proof around his wrist. "Fine," Joel said. "Jump the next one to come through the airlock and die gloriously. Me, I'll hang around. Humans are meant to provide us with leadership. Why do you not show moral support? The ones who command would have worked out what to do long ago." "Oh, drop dead." They both knew the Commonwealth would react as soon as it heard from the survivors on board Lifeboat B. Neither of them knew how long had passed since their capture, but surely it would be soon. A starship would turn up, its translator banks programmed with what Sky Spy had gleaned of the XC language, and the captors would be ordered in their own tongue to hand any captives over or else. Whereupon, quite possibly, the XCs would slaughter their captors anyway and then die their own glorious deaths. So, while sitting and waiting was a possibility, escape did seem the preferable option. Hence it was with a sense of detached reality that Joel saw a couple of XCs come in. Boon Round did not jump them as suggested, bearing bundles which they carefully left hanging in mid-air and then backed away from. Those bundles were Joel and Boon Round's spacesuits. Now, scene changed to a pair of XCs admiring a human spaceship that they had found. "Amazing," said Umoying. The cavern was well lit with lights brought in from Barabadar's ship, and the objects of interest took up most of the open space. She wasn't an expert on spacecraft, but still there seemed something distinctly extraterrestrial about it, even though it was essentially a long tube, flat at the end that faced space, tapered at the inward end. It exactly matched recordings of the other ship, the one that got away. The layout of the place confirmed her hypothesis about artificial gravity. There was quite clearly a platform of some kind running the length of the bay and down either side of the ship, with a safety rail to prevent anyone falling off. A rectangular hole showed dark against the craft's hull 3/4 of the way down, and a small ramp led up to it. Barabadar, studying the recordings of the attack, had noted that the asteroid's defences rose out of the rock from beneath hidden hatches. She had ordered a close survey of the asteroid's surface to see what else might be concealed there, and the entrance to this cavern had been found. From there, the searchers had located the inner entrance and backtracked through the maze of dark, airless passages to the occupied area of the asteroid. This was one of the unpressurized areas, and everyone was suited up. "It's the answer to my prayers," Barabadar said. "Loyal son?" Umoring recognized Stormer's battle-fit shape in the armored figure that approached. "The area is secure, Martial Mother," he said. "As far as we can tell, there are no Outlanders on board." "You've been on board?" Umoring interrupted. She caught his sour glance through his visor. "There's an airlock and what looks like a simple control panel on the inner hatch, Mother, but I don't want to start pressing buttons just yet." Umoring could see his point. The extraterrestrials had been quite thorough about making sure none of their superior technology fell into kin hands. The lifeboat was probably rigged to blow if any unauthorized entry was attempted. "So how did you check for outland extraterrestrials?" she said. Stormer glanced at Barabadar as if for permission, then back at Umoring. "We attach listening devices to the hull and we look through the windows," he said. "There are lights on inside. I'd surmise it's under its own power." "And the inner hatch would have shut the moment it detected the pressure drop," said Barabadar, "so the interior is probably pressurized too." "So it will have the optimal environmental conditions." Umoring felt an ever-rising excitement. "We could learn a great deal about their world if we could get on board." "Maybe," Barabadar said, "but if our two Outlanders can operate it, and two kin could certainly operate a ship of ours this size, then this could be the best way of returning them to their own people." Stormer and Umoring both looked at her as if she had just renounced the battle gods. Stormer was probably thinking things it would be lethal to say out loud. Umoring had no such compunction. "Return them? You're returning them?" she said, delighted. Barabadar ignored them both. "Third son," she said. "My mother?" said Fleet. "Go and fetch everything that you know belongs to the two captives and bring it here. Stormer, have the captives and the dead bodies brought to this place at once." She turned away from the question in Umoring's eyes. Back to Joel and Boon Round. Joel looked at the suits, then at the XCs, then back at the suits again. The nearest XC pointed at him, then at the suits, then back the way they had come. The two XCs continued to stand there, waiting. Joel kicked over to the human-shaped suit, grabbed it in transit, and ended up on the other side of the chamber. Then, though he saw one of the XCs flinch when he did it, he activated the control panel on the left sleeve. The suit ran a quick diagnostic and announced that it was intact. The breathing equipment had the same air reserve as when he was captured. The thruster unit was ready for use. In fact, it was fully functional, with one exception. The radio had been disabled, as Joel could see with his own eyes. The unit had been dismantled. "Wow," he said. Boon Round glanced in his direction. "It's a trap. They intend to lure us into a sense of full security and gun us down without mercy." Joel felt his exasperation rising. "And that's why they don't just walk in here with guns at the ready and do it more simply? They're sadistic animals. They like to play with our minds." "Fine," said Joel. "Hold me steady while I put this one and go to my death." Boon Round's air swam over to him and helped him suit up. As they connected the air hoses to the helmet, the Rusty said, "Perhaps I will join you. We can die together." And so the two of them made their way, under armed guard, through the passages of Sky Spy to a makeshift airlock. They passed through into the airless zone. And the adventure is only just beginning. Remember, you can buy my books at www.benjeeps.com. See you next time.